You didn't notice it happening the first time. You were sitting across from someone you cared about mid-conversation, nothing wrong, and they went quiet. Not angry quiet, just absent. And something in your chest dropped. Not sadness, something older than sadness. Something that felt, for a fraction of a second, like the floor had shifted. You probably filed it away as nothing. Sensitivity, maybe, you moved on. The problem is, your nervous system didn't. There's a reason emotional distance doesn't feel like mild disappointment. There's a reason a cold response, an unanswered call, or 3 days of silence from someone important can produce the same body reaction as standing in the middle of a street before a car rounds the corner. Not metaphorically. Biologically, your brain is running a threat detection system, and somewhere in its architecture, emotional disconnection and physical danger share the same address. Researchers Naomi Eisenberger and Matthew Lieberman published a foundational paper in 2003, an fMRI study that showed social rejection activating the anterior cingulate cortex, a brain region associated with distress and pain processing. Their 2004 follow-up, Why Rejection Hurts, put it plainly, what we call a broken heart and what we call broken bones may share overlapping neural circuitry. The language humans use for emotional pain, hurt feelings, heartbroken, painful rejection isn't poetic. It's neurologically accurate. The reason goes back further than any study can trace. Early humans lived or died in groups. Separation from a tribe wasn't a social inconvenience, it was exposure. No protection from predators. No food distribution. No one to call if something went wrong. The brain that treated isolation as neutral didn't survive long enough to pass its genes forward. What did survive was a nervous system that treated disconnection like a 5-alarm warning. That system is sitting inside your chest right now. What you think is happening when someone pulls away, you're overthinking. You're being too sensitive, you're projecting. What is actually happening, a structure in your brain that has been running survival calculations since before you were born, is scanning the emotional field and registering threat. Your body is doing what it was designed to do. The system isn't broken. The context just changed. Psychologist Stephen Porges developed what he called polyvagal theory, first introduced in 1994, describing the nervous system's unconscious process of scanning the environment for safety. He called it neuroception, and it happens before conscious thought. Before you've decided how to interpret the silence, your nervous system has already begun responding to it. Heart rate, muscle tension, a low-grade hum of cortisol entering the bloodstream. You think you're reading the situation. Your body already made up its mind. This is where attachment theory enters. John Bowlby in the 1950s and 60s, and Mary Ainsworth through her experiments in the late 1960s and 70s, documented what most people now take for granted, that human infants are biologically dependent on caregivers, not just for food and shelter, but for nervous system regulation. Between approximately 6 months and 2 years of age, the brain begins learning a fundamental lesson. Are the people close to me a source of safety or a source of uncertainty? That lesson doesn't stay in childhood. It gets encoded. What this produces in adults is a nervous system that doesn't evaluate each relationship independently. It runs pattern recognition. Someone who learned that closeness is unpredictable, that people could be warm and then suddenly cold, present and then suddenly gone, doesn't just carry that as a memory. They carry it as a set of reflexes. Every time emotional distance appears in an adult relationship, the system runs the old calculation. Threat detected. Respond accordingly. That response looks different depending on the person. Some people text 3 times before a reply. Some people go entirely silent and wait to see what happens. Some people feel an almost physical compulsion to close the distance immediately, to call, to show up, to say something that will bring the warmth back. The behavior changes. The root doesn't. Porges describes social connectedness as a core biological imperative. The nervous system doesn't calm itself in isolation. It co-regulates, meaning it uses the presence of safe, attuned people to bring itself back down from defensive states. This is not a psychological preference. It's a physiological process. Emotional safety, Porges argued, isn't just a feeling. It's a state the body either enters or doesn't. When the people around you feel uncertain, unavailable, or far away, your body doesn't get to rest. Think about the last time someone important to you became hard to read. The checking, the replaying of conversations. The way a short response that would mean nothing from a stranger could land like a signal when it came from them. You weren't being irrational. You were running an ancient piece of software in a situation it wasn't designed for a nervous system shaped by millions of years of tribal survival, trying to interpret a relationship in 2024. It doesn't know the difference between emotional coldness and genuine danger. It only knows that the person whose proximity it registered as safe has moved. The loop this creates doesn't stay in one relationship. That's what gets lost in most explanations. A nervous system that learned to treat distance as danger will find distance everywhere. The colleague who replies too briefly, the friend who cancels twice in a row. The pattern spreads because the pattern isn't about them, it's about the underlying system reading every social connection through the same lens it was trained on. You think you're reacting to this person, in this moment. The system is reacting to every moment that looked like this before. And the deeper cost isn't the anxiety, though the anxiety is real. The deeper cost is identity. A person who has spent years managing a nervous system that treats emotional distance as survival-level threat starts to organize themselves around that management. They become someone who monitors tone, who reads rooms carefully, who adjusts themselves based on temperature. Not because they decided to. Because the system demanded it thousands of times until it became the shape of how they moved through the world. That's not oversensitivity. That's a nervous system that was never taught it was safe enough to stop watching. And it won't stop not because you're broken, not because you can't change, but because the system has no evidence yet that it doesn't need to. Every pattern that holds continues until something interrupts it. The mechanism keeps running. The brain keeps treating the distance like danger. And the person inside it keeps making decisions from inside an alarm that never quite shuts off.